Welcome to Let's Talk Global Business, the show in which we look at the economic and business trends connecting the world. I'm Sarah Murray, Managing Director International at the Conference Board, the member-led global think tank that delivers trusted insights for what's ahead. Since ChatGPT was launched in November 2022, AI has dominated discussions among business leaders, as it has for everyone else. 25 years or so since Google changed the way we interact with the web, and 17 years after the debut of the iPhone, a new revolution in technology is afoot. And this, perhaps, is the most profound so far, promising to radically reshape the world around us in every industry, from healthcare to the dominance of the tech giants themselves. Few people are better placed to explain the likely impacts of this revolution, particularly on business, than my two guests today. From Brussels, I'm joined by Claudio Truzzi, Director of Research and Innovation Activities at ULB. And joining from Bangalore is Tojin Eapen, Head of the Global Innovation Centre at Inno Mantra. Both are senior fellows at the Conference Board, and both have written extensively about AI. Claudio and Tojin, welcome to Let's Talk Global Business.
Hey, hello. Sarah, thanks for having us here today.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having us.
So Tojin, Claudio, with all the hype around AI, I'm going to start our conversation by asking you a simple question. If you could describe what aspect of AI CEOs should be focused on in one word, what would it be and why? Should we start with you, Tojin?
Thank you, Sarah. This is a hard one, but if you push me, then I would say it's the word authenticity. And I think there are two parts to it, being authentic internally, which involves transparency to your own employees, being true to who you as an organization while taking advantage of AI, but at the same time, being also transparent to your external stakeholders, including your customers. Tell them exactly what you're doing and why you're doing that. I think this is a critical part of the success of AI implementation.
Claudio?
Yeah, I fully agree with Tojin. One way to get people understand the transparencies is to train them. I think the one word is a word I just coined. It's called right skilling. It's more than upskilling or reskilling. It's providing your workforce the right mindset, the AI mindset that is required by empowering them to improve their own productivity with the help of AI.
Thank you both. So, Claudio, you recently wrote a paper for the Conference Board in which you described how the business discussion around AI is moving from fascination to practical use. What did you mean by that?
Beginning 2023, generative AI in particular was more of a fascination. I mean, this announcement of ChatGPT end of November 2022, computer machine that is not behaving like a computer, but more like a human. So a lot of buzz, a lot of hypotheticals about its potential, a lot of fears about its dangers. Now we are seeing it shift into practical toolkit. Businesses are moving past the wow factor and really integrating AI to streamline operations and enhance decision making. While there are still discussions about the theoretical capabilities of AI, conversations are now more focused on actionable insights, ethical, sustainable integration, and especially now practical use cases.
What are the key technological advancements in AI since ChatGPT was launched in November 2022?
It has been an exponential, stampede, if you ask me. Just naming a few, focusing on generative AI, more powerful AI engines, which are called large language models, LLMs, larger context window, which relates to ChatGPT as a RAM, the memory related back to the computer, less hallucination, direct web access. ChatGPT, since 1 year already, the paid version can access the web directly. One very important, document analysis and understanding. You can upload your document and ask questions to this document. You can start a conversation with your documents. Multimodality, you can screenshot something, dump it onto ChatGPT or the like, and have it explain what's happening, including voice interaction. And then you can generate your own customized GPT. You can now do all that with the paid versions without the fear of, revealing confidential information. And last but not least, drastic reduction of training costs and the rise of serious competition. That is also healthy.
Excellent, thank you. And Tojin, when you think about 2024, what do you think the biggest AI applications are going to be?
I think to build on what Claudio said is so you're going to move from this period of fascination to practicality. But I think the first area, at least to me, that you'll see business impact is in marketing communication, and you're already seeing that significantly across the board. Soon after that, we are going to see it almost impact every single aspect of business operations.
Yeah, if I can take on that, I see that this every single aspect of operations, I do agree, but it will be staged with first impacting the adjacent functions and not the value creation functions, which are already highly efficient and are already using classical AI since 10 years. Whereas only, the administrative functions, finance, HR, legal, support, lead and learning development, they are poised to really make the most of this first wave of generative AI integration.
And what would you say are the major kind of technological barriers that are facing AI developers?
Definitely, the most important for me is accessing proprietary data, because that is quickly becoming the real differentiating factor to build a sustainable competitive advantage on. All GPTs, Gemini's, Copilot from Microsoft are trained on the internet, on publicly available data. So they are all more or less the same, or they will become more or less similar. And everybody will be using it.
Yeah, I would like to add on to Claudia's points. For me, it's a broader problem of managing certain inherent trade-offs, which you see all over the place. So one thing is this efficiency versus resilience. As you use AI system, you become more efficient as an organization, but you could lose out on your overall resilience. Another example that it's very easy to understand is this trade-off between bias that you see in the training data and also historical accuracy. So a very famous example is if you ask, the text-to-image models to give an image of computer scientists, it's going to be disproportionately men in the picture. So it's a historical artifact, but how do you navigate that trade-off where there is clearly a bias, but then how do you accommodate that in the context of what's been there in the past?
Very good, absolutely. And maybe I can complement that by zeroing in on generative AI. You might have realized by now that I'm really focused on that, because that's what made people realize what AI can do. And I'm kind of developing this distinction between classic AI and generative AI, the new way of, or at least the most visible part of it. I think if you zero in on that in terms of major tech players, we have OpenAI, ChatGPT, still the most versatile generative AI solutions today, although they had 1 year advantage on everybody else and are now losing ground to competition, which is quickly catching up. There is the second runner-up, Anthropic, Claude from Anthropic. They're very good in writing styles, much less robotic, much less corporate lingo than ChatGPT. And then we have the largest of the blocks, Google, Gemini, and Microsoft Copilot. They do have a distinctive advantage of being tightly integrated with their respective ecosystems, and you can do fantastic things like summarizing your Gmails with one person. And that's great for a device-centric approach. But those two come with zero personality and will not provide a differentiating factor per se, since everybody will be using them.
So lots to look out for as we see these tech players come out with new iterations of this. If I just move slightly to the impact on business, we've talked a little bit about the landscape and the different players. Which areas of business do you think are going to change the fastest?
When it comes to where AI is really taking root now, you'll find it's telecom, tech, and media sectors sprinting ahead in terms of industrial sectors. While in terms of business functions, it's more marketing, sales, as Tojin actually mentioned already before, and product development that are really getting their hands dirty with generative AI as we speak. On the flip side, we have HR, supply chain, manufacturing that are just getting started. They're still at the starting blocks there. That's how I see it, the scenario today.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Claudio said. So we see areas which typically have been called creative, right, within organizations, advertising, communication, and so these are some of the areas where companies are seeing quick returns or quick impacts in terms of using these tools because the implementations are much more straightforward. Of course, there are clear challenges, and but at the same time, of course, as Claudia mentioned, the impact is going to be much broader.
Am I right in hearing that, so AI is definitely going to help with efficiency, it's going to help with some repetitive and routine tasks, but the biggest impact is in these kind of high value, creative and the process of innovation tasks. Is that what you're saying is going to be the biggest impact?
Yeah, so I think to set the context, I think going back to what Claudia said, when we talk about AI, there's the old AI, which is typically machine learning till 2022, right? Which is more about prediction, and that's has fairly robust applications, and and we know how that works, and there's really not much surprise in it, right? Whereas post Chat GPT, we have all these new applications where I study creativity, and if you told me that at some point people are going to say that AI could be creative, that would be astonishing for me. And now, but yet we are in that world today. And so I would say some of the applications that people are excited about are the ones which were not possible with the old AI, right? So and so that's why I think a lot of interest and a lot of the low-hanging fruits in that particular space, because that could never be automated in the past, but now it apparently can be, to at least to some extent.
And if you think about, a number of our members, regardless of the function that they're in, they're obviously grappling with the power of AI. What have you seen about businesses needing to kind of change their hiring policies to take advantage of AI?
I find that a lot of organizations are very of simply that exploratory process. So a lot of the companies are not allowed to access tools like
Mm.
ChatGPT, more careful than they need to be, and because of that reason, they're losing out on some of that exploration that can trigger really good ideas, and I think I find that to be concerning.
It is, because that kind of approach is actually backfiring in the balance between benefits and risk. By prohibiting ChatGPT, companies actually find themselves holding all the risks because employees are exposing confidential data, whereas all the benefits are for the employees. So by prohibiting it, you actually it's a boomerang effect. What is required by a forward-looking management is to set up policies. How do I use it? How can I use it? To buy tools that are can guarantee safe sandbox, and that would level up the benefits.
Yeah. And going back on hiring, I think it's very interesting because in the past, if you said, what are the skills needed to do an AI job, you would expect it to be computer science majors or you know or statisticians who actually check boxes. But today it could be English majors. It could be people who could learn to communicate better with machines. So when we think about hiring, there needs to be also a change in the perspective on what is the kind of skill set that we really need in this new age of AI as opposed to the previous one. And sometimes when we use the term AI, it gets sort of bucketed and a lot of things come together. But I think the new AI, the kind of skills are very different. And so that's something I think we're still understanding and learning.
So it sounds like, if I just to summarize, what we've just covered, at the start of 2023, AI is the new kid in town. Everyone's buzzing with excitement, but they're a bit nervous about what it could do. As the year rolled on, something's changed and companies started realizing that to make AI work, they needed to train the teams, make sure they were using it ethically. So there's a bit of a shift from being wowed to figuring out how to actually make it work in everyday business. I think thinking about it as like a buddy, that it gets stuff done for you. It's going to help you make decisions. It's going to help you predict the future. And then really understanding the power of generative AI systems. This is about custom solutions, making your job easier and freeing you up time to do stuff that really matters. It sounds like, that's kind of been the shift. And what I hear from you, Tojin, is generative AI can really help with promoting divergent thinking, idea evaluation, supporting idea refinement and facilitating collaboration. And so it's how to make sure that people understand that that's its power. But there seems to still be a bit of a fear factor. And to your earlier point at the beginning of this, a mindset change is really required.
It requires getting uncomfortable because that's the zone where you learn. And every time you have to change your behavior that has been established since, 10, 20, 30 years, that is very difficult to do. But if you play the game, it's so fun that it is definitely worthwhile.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion on AI and what it means for business in Europe. And please note that you can find and explore Claudio Truzzi's report, The AI Journey, Where Will AI Take Us in 2024, on our website.
Need a practical approach to leading AI projects? Want insights from what other companies are doing? Team up with peers from Europe's leading companies in the Conference Board's AI Forum. We are collaborating to put the power of AI at the heart of business innovation. Discuss how to use AI for business growth. Learn from other success and failures. And discover how to embed generative AI into existing digital initiatives. Join me, Claudio Truzzi, for a hands-on approach to mastering the AI revolution.
Hello and welcome back to this conversation with Tojin Eapen and Claudio Truzzi. We're talking about AI and its importance in C-suite priorities for 2024. I want to turn the discussion now to look at how regional differences are playing out in AI. Tojin, let me begin with you. From the perspective of Bangalore, how are Indian tech businesses driving the development of AI technologies differently from their Western counterparts?
So I think one of the aspects where India is very different from a lot of the other markets is a need for multilingual communication, right? So and I think that's a very core need in any form of AI. And so I think a lot of the work that's happening would be to sort of extend some of the capabilities that we see today with ChatGPT models and voice to text, voice to speech models, all those kind of models, and extend that to a much more robust multilingual systems. The other aspect is, of course, in India, there's this idea of frugal innovation. So do something that is low cost, but also equally effective. And in a way, so the companies in India see themselves as the harbingers for a broader sort of market beyond Indian shores, where there's a need for products that are low cost but equally effective. And at the same time, there's also a lot of collaboration between the local government and also the federal government to sort of come up with tools that can help provide specific value to end users, and that can come at a lower cost to what's available out there.
We spoke earlier about different industries that are most impacted by AI. Claudio mentioned telecom, tech, media. In Asia, do you think it's the same industries that are going to be most benefited, and impacted from AI, or there are others that you're spotting that will reap the rewards?
Yeah, I see other industries as well. So retail and e-commerce is really big, not just in India, but also rest of Asia, and it's a growing industry as reflecting the broader economic growth in those regions. And so you'll see a lot of applications in that particular space, starting from product development. So thinking about how customers can co-create the products. And I think e-commerce is one area where a lot of companies are trying to build specific solutions that would work for the local markets.
Interesting. And does AI present a particular challenge to developing economies? So, given the traditional offshoring of routine tasks, often to Asia?
I think the challenge would be that in many cases, when it comes to data security and the quality of data, may not be as high as you would expect in, I would say, the US or Europe. And so, again, going back to the point that the the magic in all this is data, right? And so if you don't have that high quality data, you're not going to see the kind of impact that you expect.
We all are aware with all the headlines of, the geopolitical rivalry in the Pacific. Do you think that's helping or hindering the development of AI?
I think it's a bit of both because everybody is sort of considering this to be a key strategic advantage, but also I think people sort of recognize that this is something they can do something about, right? I think there's a lot of interest in competitive spirit, if that's the right word.
Claudio, if we just turn to Europe, in March this year, the EU introduced the Artificial Intelligence Act. Is this another example of Europe regulating while the rest of the world innovates?
Let me take a step back and just put in a little bit of a context. The EU's Artificial Intelligence Act introduces a product-centric regulatory approach that is very similar to the well-established, the CE marking for toys, electronics, for physical products. What does that mean? It means that AI systems must meet specific standards that will be evaluated by third parties, independent third parties, in order to just enter the market. Again, much like electronics or toys. Well, this, and I have experience with the AI forum that I'm running here at the conference board, has basically stopped in Europe any worries, any discussion at the top level about ethical regulation and compliance, because it brought clarity. It's clarity and regulation, which actually now supports innovation by getting clear guidelines on compliance. It was basically a leveling field exercise. So it's more than regulating this time. It's fostering a stable environment for responsible AI development.
Yeah. So it's a good thing.
I see this one was done right. Yes, it's a good thing.
In a previous podcast, one of our guests talked about the Nordics being the conscience of AI. Is that something that rings true to you? Is Europe's focus on ethical issues an advantage, do you think, for European business?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. For instance, in terms of seeing it as a competitive edge, you have trust and branding. Today, AI adoption is all about trust. People have a problem in GPT because they don't trust. So in terms of trusting and branding, with this AI Act, actually we sort of leveled this out. And again, as I said before, I think this is actually laying the ground for sustainable innovation. Now, on the flip side, in terms of challenges and limitations, we always have this, interplay that you just mentioned. I was downplaying it a little bit, but it is real. It is there. The more you regulate, the less you innovate. And although there are gray areas there, the extremes remain true. And it all boils down whether this ethical approach, this AI Act, is quickly absorbed, or if it will extend the time to market for AI technologies, which is then risking economic setbacks in a rapidly evolving industry. It always remains challenging to translate ethical principles, which are, up there, very theoretical, well-meaning, but theoretical, into actionable policies and actions, everyday actions.
So as we wrap up this discussion, let me ask you both, what is your top takeaway from this discussion that business leaders should focus on? Claudio, may I start with you?
I actually would like to finish as we started. I do believe that number one is that senior executives should consider getting their hands dirty with generative AI. To extract the maximum productivity boost out of this new tool, a behavioral change is necessary in the way we go by our own professional everyday tasks. That's not negotiable. So unless business leaders do experience themselves firsthand, they will not be able to see the critical importance to empower all of their employees to use these tools professionally and safely.
And Tojin?
So for me, the key takeaway for business leaders is that managing in the age of AI within the context of a global business is really a balancing act. On one hand, the organization must stay true to its identity while leveraging the efficiencies that AI offers. The second aspect really involves reskilling existing employees for the new reality, as well as attracting the right kind of external capabilities. And finally, the last part of this balancing act is all about investment. How do you balance the need to fund other business areas which are critical to the organization, while at the same time exploring investments in AI and related technologies? So managing all these aspects of this balancing act is really the thing that managers should focus on.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Let's Talk Global Business. We'll be back next time with a focus on a new topic. You can find Claudio's report on AI, as well as listen to the entire catalogue of podcast programming from the Conference Board by visiting our website, conference-board.org. Thank you, Claudio and Tojin, for sharing your insights with us. And until next time on Let's Talk Global Business.